Okay, so I got a no heat call. I walked in here and the house is warm and the temperature is like 70 degrees. But I actually left. I came in, left because nobody answered, and then I called my office. Somebody was able to get a hold of the lady, called back. She called back and said that the house was 52 degrees at 9 o'clock last night. And so something is obviously intermittently going on here. So we'll take a look at it. Okay. %er. Yeah, that's most likely the problem right there, just a clogged filter. A lot of these things, if it opens to high limit so many times, usually like 3 times, if that happens, it will go into a lockout for 3 to 4 hours. So that's most likely what's going on. But while I'm here, let's go ahead and check a few other things. Just shut off, but the thermostat's only set for 70, so that doesn't surprise me that it shut off. Let's see here, 224. Could be different stuff. Make sure all my electrical connections are tight. They are extremely tight. Most likely it was the filter, but you can get debris in these little ports or even in the hose. Flame sensor could be dirty, ground wire could be loose. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could intermittently fail. I'm gonna make a call for heat and see if I'm getting 24 volts back on the W wire. I know I'm getting good voltage between common and R. But I want to see between common and W as well. That tells me that my thermostat wire and my thermostat are all good. 26.4, 26.5. So I'm not losing much there, so that's all good. That feels clear, but I'm going to go ahead and run an Allen wrench through there. It's blowing kind of hard. Hook up this black hose and blow through it. And it does blow kind of hard. Like I feel some resistance, but it could just be the way it is. So I want to at least try to run a really small Allen wrench through there. Clear that port. Well, yeah, I don't feel anything. Usually if I push that in there, I'll feel something kind of chunk apart or break out of there, which I did not feel. So that's all clear. Came inspect my hose, make sure it's good. I can do a voltage drop across these contacts when we make a call, make sure that's all good. I'm going to go ahead and clean my flame sensor. These particular flame sensors are a pain to get out because of all the angles between the bracket and the 90 on the flame sensor itself. Luckily, this can handle, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 burners, but there's nothing on the 6th spot, which actually allowed this to roll out pretty good. Just to get this kind of charged stuff off of it, then I'll come back and polish it with my emery cloth. You don't want to leave grooves in these. It allows the burnt dust and dirt somewhere to cake up into and actually makes it worse. It prevents the signal from getting transferred back to the control board, the microamp signal. I'm going really light with this sandpaper. I don't want to put any more grooves in it than it has. And then when I get onto the emery cloth, of course, I'll really go hard on it because I want to polish it and make it smooth and shiny. It's a lot better. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and measure the microamp signal, just because I don't know why this furnace was locked out. It could be a low flame signal because of a failing flame sensor. I don't know that, so I better go ahead and check it. Just kind of double checking all my electrical connections here, make sure everything looks and feels good, because that can cause a problem. Something that's really important with flame signal, like I was talking about, is this ground wire. We want to make sure grounding is good and tight. Good and tight. There's one right there and one right there. Y'all probably didn't know that good and tight's a German term. Good and tight. But now you know. See, I got a little tighter. It was pretty tight, but it's tighter. 1/4 inch there. Tight. Everything's pretty tight. So let's measure our flame signal, or our flame rectification signal, or microamp rating, and then I'll also amp out my motor and stuff. So this motor's rated for 1.3 amps. Pulling 1.3, 1.5. It is overamping a little bit on that winding. Here it's 1.1, so yeah, it's good. As soon as that flame gets ignited, it comes across, hits this rod. Oops, that's my fault, I fell off of it. 2.5, that's good. I mean, anything over 0.5 will keep the gas valve energized. And 2.4, 2.5, that's not terrible. Highest I've ever seen these is usually around 5 or 6 if you're lucky. Most of them run around 3 or even 2 point something. That's not uncommon. So I know it's getting a good flame rectification signal. Ooh, that's a really loose connection. I mean, that's enough to cause a problem. Doesn't mean it did. Again, I really think the filter was the issue. But without putting the filter back in and checking my delta T, I'm not gonna know for sure. As long as I'm going through all this other stuff, that's the most important thing. Just that we're checking everything, making sure that it's not a problem. There's no point in me putting that filter in and checking all that other than peace of mind to know for sure if that's what it was. If I go through all this other stuff, then there's no sense in really going through the, putting that dirty filter back in and checking that. That's good. Connections are good. You can check your safeties to make sure don't have weak contacts in them just by doing a voltage drop across them. They're gonna have 24 coming in and across 24 going out. So as long as I have 0.1, that's very low. I wouldn't want to see like 1 point anything there. That would mean that my contacts inside, something's not making a good connection from like here to here. 0.0. See here, I think I'm just not getting on this really good. I'm kind of getting on some paint. Did you hear that? It doesn't like that. What's going on there? I'm gonna barely put that on there. Something happened there. Something definitely happened there. So I think we're good, other than this thing went off when I moved this. But I was moving this electrical connection when it did that. I still think I got something going on in this switch, because that shouldn't do that. That's on there really tight. It takes a lot to pull that off, so doing a little bit of this, I know it's tight. It shouldn't be breaking that connection. I think something's going on in this little metal tab where it goes over and then comes into this contact. Something's up. So I'm still going to recommend replacing this switch. So other than that, I really think this thing's good. I'm still thinking that the dirty filter was the main problem, but that's why I go through it all, just to check and see if I can come up with something else, anything else, so I don't leave and then they're freezing again because I didn't take the time to look for all possibilities. I think in a nutshell we're pretty good here. We've checked everything. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this pressure switch, which is rated for 0.47 inches water column. Oh man, come on baby. I'm going to use a universal switch and just set it up for around that pressure. Okay, got a universal pressure switch here. Here we go. So we need a 0.47, so we need to go between 0.31 through 0.90. And if I'm a 4.7 between that, see 40, 50, 60, I would say I need to be turned out 3/4 of the way, pretty close here. So to hit 0.47, I'm going between 0.31 and 0.90. That's just ballpark math. I'm not getting crazy. So I need the natural colored spring, which so the Allen screw's already out, so we can just pop that silver spring in there, make sure it's centered. It's going to be a screw here, or an Allen cap right there that I got to get. Perfect fit. I always kind of start my screws backwards a little bit, give them a chance to get lined up. You don't want to cross thread this. The tighter you go, the more pressure it's going to take to close this switch. 0.31, 0.47. So I want to be about 3/4 of the way out. I might close this all the way, then count my turns out, and then just go back in about 1/4 of the distance. The only thing I have left to figure out is if I got to put a choke in this, because the old one did have one. I want to see what my furnace is actually pulling. So I will go ahead and throw a manometer on this hose, and let's just see what it actually closes, or what it actually pulls. There it goes. It's rated at 0.47. It's going to 0.98, 0.984. So I know that I could actually crank this a little tighter. You kind of, this Allen screw a little tighter to increase the pressure a little bit. Because again, I'm from 0.31 to 0.90 with this natural colored spring. And you've dealt with quite a few switches. You kind of get a feel with your own body, pretty close to how much pressure you're actually drawing when you just kind of put your lips around it lightly and just draw in a little bit. And I'd say this thing is very light. I mean, it kind of almost feels like a 0.20. It's a little heavy. I mean, it's probably almost perfect right now, or maybe 0.35. That might sound crazy that I would even say that. But any seasoned person or anybody who's done a lot of pressure switches, no matter what it be that they're working on, they'll know what I'm talking about here. I might go a little bit tighter just because that feels pretty darn light. So I'm just going to get it, close. I mean, the main thing is use the right spring. And then based on the range of what that spring will cover, screw it all the way in like I did, and screw it out about the percentage or the ratio of the of what it can screw into. Screw it out about that ratio or percentage to what the number is that you're supposed to acquire based on the old switch, which was 0.47. I'm just going to mount it back on like this, wherever I can, really. Hose is barely long enough to put it back there. Mount it right there, and I don't know why that wouldn't work. Got to hook my wires up. I have no doubt that it'll work. So it says normally open and common, which is where we want to be. Well, that's interesting. It does not appear to be closing. And I know I've got the pressure there. It's closing, I can hear it. What is going on here? 24 volts. Six. For some reason I am not getting voltage across this switch, and I know it's closing. That's really odd. Huh. That is something. I don't know what I'm missing on this switch. Normally open and common. Let me just test continuity through here, see what's going on. Okay, this switch is literally labeled wrong. It says common C right here. C and NC, which is normally closed, but I can see plain as day that says NC, normally closed, and yet it's open. And this NO, which is normally open, and even here it shows a line going between 1 and 3. This, which 3's up here, says 3 there, says 2 right here, says 1 right here. Between 1 and 2, which is right here, is supposed to be normally open. That's closed. Says between 1 and 3 is supposed to be normally closed, NC. And it's literally open. So, if I just wire everything opposite of what it says I should, I would expect this thing to work perfect. So that just goes to show that just because the part you've purchased says something on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's accurate. I'm telling you, the day we're living in, what am I trying to say? The times that we're living in is just, this kind of stuff doesn't surprise me whatsoever. So if this is right now, that hot surface igniter should come on and it should take off. Oh my gosh, I did this backwards again. God, I'm still trying to read it. This is normally open because it says normally closed. Now it should take off. Just nothing surprises me anymore. There it goes. Even after I confirm with my meter that this labeling is all backwards, I still hook it up the way that it's labeled. I'll tell you. Anyway, we'll be good now. There it goes. Well, I'm actually really glad that this happened, because again, it goes to show you anything can happen, like that being labeled wrong. Why that was labeled inaccurate, I don't know. What's something got flipped on the contacts inside during assembly or what, but that's what these are for. Use your meters, you'll figure it out. Okay, here's my orifice selection. So they're calling these little chokes orifices. Here we go. Using a flow restricting orifice. Some applications require a delayed switching action after set point is reached. The delay is created by inserting an orifice plug into either or both of the sample line connectors to restrict the airflow. Okay, so it wants to see a little bit of a delay before, so it's still going to give it the vacuum that it wants, but it's going to take a little longer to do it because it's got to get the air through those little slits in these orifices. I got to say, first of all, this board is not going to require that. And they've got a technical bulletin here where you can get more information on that. So anyway, I'm not going to put in an orifice or a restriction orifice because this board doesn't require a delay, and it's just not necessary. So the other one did have one, but it doesn't require it because it came on without it. All right, thanks for watching.